Oh, we're live. Okay. Hi, you, and welcome back to another episode of the Western Hippie podcast and live video cast. I'm your host, Michaela. As always, Willard is sleeping in the next room over. And today, compared to the last two lives, I wanted to do something a little bit different because my intention with this podcast is to share what I am most passionate about in the most honest way possible. Whether it's like our last two videos where we're talking about music and the culture and how it's all connected, or more like today, where I'm sharing some personal experiences, what I've experimented with, and what I would do over again if I was starting over, such as a healing journey. This is something that's very personal to me and something in hindsight, a journey I've been on arguably for the last 16 years and more intentionally for the last 14 years. And so I'm going to get into a quick overview what I would do if I was starting a healing journey again today, some hard truths that I've learned. And yeah, I really hope to share this in a way that's honest, and two, in a way that will help you maybe save some time or do things in the most effective way because I had done some stories on my Instagram. And if you're watching this, I would love for you to join me over on Instagram. I really love connecting deeper on Instagram with my Western Hippie community. So please find me over at Michaela Pollock. If you search the Western Hippie, my profile should also come up. It's a picture of my horse Jazzy, Willie, and I. And so, anyway, I really, as I was doing my stories on Instagram today, I realized that over the course of since 2019 and a little bit before, I've spent at least $30,000 in healing, growth, and personal development tools. And for some people, that's a lot of money. For some people, it's not that much money. I know some, people that spend that in a week on personal development and growth. I would say for the average person, that's a decent amount of money. So if you just have a smaller budget, or really you just want to get the most bang for your buck and time, that is really my intention with everything that I share, especially when it comes to healing journeys, is what is the most effective bang for your buck and effective use of your time when it comes to seeking growth or personal development. And really, for me, at the end of the day, it's a journey of seeking wholeness, of becoming who I believe I am at my core, who I was born to be. I love one of my favorite quotes in the Lord of the Rings series is put down the ranger and become who you were born to be. Because I believe so many of us, like Aragorn, have this front, this ranger, and there comes a time, whether you're relating it to the hero's journey or not, where you have to set down that ranger and become who you were born to be. Not all of us choose that in this lifetime, and that's okay. Like, we're learning other lessons. But if you're watching this video, I know that you have made that decision like me. You have decided to put down that ranger and become who you were born to be. And there are multiple ways to do this. And I feel like there are going to be some people that get mad at me for saying this, but I think of the Tony Robbins quote of complexity is the enemy of execution. And really, when it comes to growth, to healing, to whatever you want to call it, all that it is subconscious rewiring, unwiring, and reprogramming and nervous system regulation. If you do those two things, I believe the rest of our lives are naturally going to fall into place. Now, where it gets a little more complex is there are thousands of ways to do that. So, when I now, knowing what I know now, what I am looking for is what is going to get into my subconscious brain, into my subconscious beliefs, because our subconscious it starts forming in the third trimester and stops forming when we're about 7 years old. And so throughout that time, we are forming our beliefs, our values, our rules, and we're not even aware of it. And that subconscious brain is controlling and determining 90% of our reality. So if we don't get into the subconscious mind, we're basically running on autopilot on default, and there's no intention, there's no like decision and dedication to get to where you want to go. You're putting the car on cruise and you're not even setting the GPS, you're just going in a straight line. And so our goal is really to intentionally program the GPS, aka the subconscious mind, and go where we want to go and not where cruise control is just going to take us. And the other thing is nervous system regulation. So this is my interpretation. Fact check me on this. In everything that I do, I'm just sharing my experience and my interpretation. I'm not really big into science. I will learn and research a little bit of things to get an understanding and to decide if something aligns with my values. And then I will just go do it and I will go experiment and then I will share with you how it works for me and my interpretation of how it worked. I don't usually have the data. The only thing that I really did a deep dive on was MDMA therapy because that was a big jump for me. And at the time, that was something that was against my values because I very much had an attitude of, I don't do drugs. And so when I went to go do it, I had to decide, is it a drug or is it a medicine that's really going to help me? And I might talk a little bit about this today. I'm not sure. My end goal or my end reasoning, my big reason for deciding to do MDMA therapy was because I had PTSD, and MDMA therapy has had a lot of studies where I believe 6 months after 2 treatments, 70% of soldiers had gotten rid of their PTSD symptoms. So, I did a little more research on that. I know a little bit more about that. I'm more going to do research, as I said, is it aligned with my values? Is this something that has proven to be somewhat effective? And even if it's not, I'm still gonna go try it for myself because at my heart, at my core, I'm an experimenter and I wanna know how something works for me. I don't really care how it works for that other person. If it lights me up, if my intuition tells me to make a run for it, I'm gonna go and then I'm gonna tell you how it worked for me. And that is very much what this video is about today. With that being said, my interpretation is we have hundreds of millions of neurons in each one of our eyes. And those neurons are scanning and telling our nervous system, are things safe or not? And so, if our nervous system is dysregulated, everything is deemed unsafe. So, for me, I had some things in my subconscious that was deeming the world unsafe. So, I would see something, deem it as unsafe, and it was my nervous system was just putting myself in a state of fight or flight. And one of the other things that I am going to talk about today, and actually, we're just going to get into it right now, is there are many paths that lead to the same destination. So, regardless of where you start, and this is where nervous system regulation comes in, regardless of where you start your journey, there is no wrong way to start, whether you're embarking on. So, there's multiple paths. So, the path that I am talking about is emotional healing, mental healing, physical healing, and spiritual healing. Now, where we have to be careful is there is a productive way to embark on that path, and there is a counterproductive way to embark on that path. So, the counterproductive way is using those things as either escapism or control. The productive way is actually using those things to regulate our nervous system, to rewire and reprogram our subconscious mind, to get better and to be more present, to feel, not escape. And that's where I believe we get in a trap, right? I've been in this trap many times as far as embarking on a physical healing journey. I've used exercise as control. I've used exercise as escapism. I've used exercise or food as food was a huge control thing for me. And there are a lot of people that embark on a spiritual healing path that use it very much for escapism. And so we want to be mindful of those things and really be clear about our intentions on which path we decide to embark on first and why we're doing that, and then continue to bring the awareness of, are we using this to escape? Are we using this to control? And if that's the reason, we really need to sit and get present with ourselves and just be mindful of our behavior and do it for a different reasoning. So, but regardless of whatever path you start on, there is no wrong way. So, for example, if you do not want to touch the emotional, the spiritual, or the mental side of things yet, if you want to start with the physical, the irony is a lot of our emotions are stored in and toxins are stored in fat cells. So if you start to heal the physical body, those things will naturally start to release. So you might it's gonna lead you to do more emotional healing because it's gonna start releasing and healing those things, but once you really start to release the toxins, those things are gonna come up anyway, so you see how by going down that path, it leads you to those other paths, and for spiritually and mentally, as you start to unwire those subconscious beliefs, and as you start to feel more connected and more present with yourself, your physical body is naturally gonna start telling you what it needs. So just choose the path that feels the most aligned and the simplest for you. Because one of the things my mom told me years ago was a story from her Uncle Joe. And my Uncle Joe, so it would be my great uncle, I never met him, was an alcoholic. He had started going to AA. And by the time he had passed away, he had not drank a drop of alcohol for 30 some years. And what Uncle Joe used to tell himself is, I will do well today, or I will not drink today. I actually switched it to I will do well today for myself because I wasn't going through an alcohol addiction. But I liked the idea of, and Brene Brown actually says this too, like, I can't promise you what I'm going to be tomorrow. I can't promise you what I'm going to do and say tomorrow, but today I think Brene Brown says, "I will choose courage over comfort." No promises about tomorrow, but today. And then, of course, the irony is that tomorrow becomes today and the next day eventually becomes today. And so every day you're telling yourself today. And that really gives your brain this feeling of it's not forever, it's just today. And the irony is, if we allow it, it could potentially turn into the rest of our lives or forever. But I just really love the simplicity of that. So, whatever feels the most tangible, the most simplest for you to start, that's going to start building momentum, and then that's going to build you confidence, and that's going to give you the ability to keep going. So if emotionally attacking emotionally working through things is the most intimidating piece of this for you, don't touch it yet. Start physical, start mental, start spiritual, just start talking to a friend. This doesn't have to be complicated to be effective. In fact, I would argue the simplest thing is the most effective. And I resisted this for so long. I don't know if you've ever heard of the holistic psychologist, but when I first started diving into her work, she said she started everyone's journey making one small daily promise. And I remember thinking it was such BS. And then I realized that was something tangible. It was something simple that could be done. And then that built that momentum and created bigger changes. And for me, when I tried to change everything at once, I would make it a week or two and then I would give up on myself because it was overwhelming. Because when our subconscious has certain rules and certain laws and certain values, you can only override that for so long before it breaks down. And then that's when we tend to give up, right? Because we haven't actually addressed those subconscious beliefs, values, and actions. We've just put it's like taking I that cliche about sweeping things under the rug. It's about putting a rug over the mess instead of cleaning up the mess, and eventually you just keep tripping over it and then you like say F it and go sit on the couch again. That's what happens. So, anyway, with that being said, I wanted to talk to you a little bit and give you a quick overview of my story, how I got started on this journey, and then we'll dive into what I would do today if I was starting over again. I do have a few notes on my phone. So if you catch me looking down, I'm checking my notes because on this one, I really wanted to remember some things and make sure I tell you these things. I wanted to do a live today. I will eventually do just, I'm writing a book right now and there's a lot going on. So, the simplest way for me to show up on YouTube in this season of life is just live and talking to you face to camera. Eventually, I will be doing presentations. So, if you're into visuals, so make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're into visuals. So make sure you subscribe to the channel. And so you will see those videos as they come out. I will be doing presentations and really be guiding and teaching you in more of a structured way than just this live video. So, anyway, without further ado, let's get into my story, a little overview of my story, and then, yeah, let's just do it. So, one of the reasons I am writing my book actually is because I don't plan on going deep into this story anymore. One of the things is I like to write the story and then I like to be done with it. I don't want to keep repeating this story because I don't want it constantly going on in my subconscious mind, and I want it to be out there in some way. Brendan Burchard actually gave me this idea. And so when the book comes out, if you want to know all the details of my story, it will be in the book. The short overview of the story is I was sexually assaulted by the guy that I was taking horseback riding lessons from at 12 years old. And we think I was brainwashed. The brainwashing started about a year before the assault started, and the actual assaults lasted about 3 months. And as that was happening, I started having memories of another assault that happened. I've blocked out most of this time period of my life. We're guessing anywhere between 3 to 5 years old, and it lasted for several years. The I actually thought it only happened one time. I have done 2 sessions with MDMA, and that video is also on the channel. And in those 2 sessions, it was revealed to me that actually it did not happen one time, it happened for years. I had just blocked out those memories in my life. So at 12 years old, that's where so I'm 28, that's where the 16-year healing journey did start in some ways because I was so filled with hate, I was so filled with rage. I just knew I couldn't go on like that. So my only goal at that point was to just learn how to not hate this SOB for the rest of my life. And so that was like step 1. I didn't have the terms to call it a healing journey or any of that. I just knew I couldn't hate this SOB the rest of my life because it was controlling me. So that was step 1. Where it became more intentional is when I turned 14. So at 14, I met a lady who had also been sexually assaulted at a young age to more extreme degrees, I would argue, than myself. And I don't like to get into trauma comparison. And I also think there's an objective. She had it a lot more frequently for a lot more years. And for me, in my opinion, a lot worse than I did. Doesn't mean my trauma is not relevant. It just means like, girl went through some shit. And so I saw how it had an effect on her. It was 30, 40 years after the event, and her body, and I do not know, this is what I consider a gift from God, the universe, to have this awareness. I don't know why, but I just knew in that moment that if I didn't figure my ish out, I was gonna end up like her. She wanted to be a good person, but her trauma was the wall that blocked her from being the person that she wanted to be. And since she had that block in her life, her finances were a mess. Her marriage was a mess. She couldn't even make love with her husband. That was just not the life that I wanted to live. And I saw how, yes, this horrific assault had happened to her for years and years and years, and it was terrible. And the assault went from going on for 5 years to lasting 40 years because she never dealt with this. And I knew that was not the life that I wanted to live. And I really, truly feel like God put her into my life to say, Michaela, figure your fucking shit out, or that's what's going to happen. And yes, I swear when I talk to God, and I think God sometimes swears when he talks to me because let's be honest, sometimes that's the only way he can get my attention. Whoops. Anyway, so is when it became more intentional. I didn't go to therapy. I just started to be aware of this is like terrible, but am I becoming more like her, or am I actually being the person that I feel like God wants me to be? And I thought I was doing a pretty good job. I had addressed a lot of things. I was able to talk about things. I was able to share my story. I thought I was doing good. And I've now learned to say, like, when Michaela says she is fine, it's code word for Michaela is not fine. Like, Michaela needs help yesterday. And so I was 19 and I got into my first relationship, and I'm 5'3" on a good day. The guy I was dating is 6'2", 6'3", something like that, or was dating was 6'2", 6'3". He picked me up to kiss me, and I went out into outer space, and I didn't come back for a hot minute. I don't know if it lasted a second, 20 years, I have no idea. And it terrified me because, like I said, and this is where I sometimes just wanna, like, shoulda had a V8 myself, because I shoulda known I wasn't okay, because when him and I had started talking, just my body had totally went into, like, a fight or flight mode and was doing it was like I was doing everything I could to run away from him instead of I liked this guy. I just from the first time I met this guy, I just had a connection with him, and even though that happened, I tried to run away. I told him I didn't wanna see him again. We ended up running back into each other, and then that's when I told myself, "I don't know what is going on with my body, but I can't fight the feelings of my heart. I can't fight how I feel about this guy. So regardless of what is going on with my body, even though, I have these strong feelings for this guy and I'm still trying to run away. I don't know what's going on, but I'm going to get through this because I really care about him and I can't let this get in the way. So I'm just going to stumble through and figure it out." And I just got done writing about this part in the book, and it was actually a really lonely time for me because at the time, the person that I considered my best friend was just not able to be there emotionally for me. And so I didn't even have someone I could talk to about, like, "Man, so I'm really into this guy. I really like this guy, but like every time I'm around him, I want to run away because I'm terrified he might touch me or kiss me or whatever that is." And for those of you that don't know my story, when I was sexually assaulted when I was 12, the guy kissed me a lot. So to this day, if someone gets like, it takes me a minute to kind of just calm down, because when someone gets in this area of my face, I still, brace myself a little bit because it was just terrible. And as I said, all the details will be in the book. But that really, so 19, I'm 28, so 9 years ago, whoa, that sounded weird to say. That really kickstarted my healing journey because that moment terrified me so much. And then in hindsight, realizing me not dealing with my trauma created behaviors in myself that caused me to hurt people that I really deeply loved. And him and I eventually talked about it, but he didn't know why I was running away. He didn't know why I had these weird reactions around him, and I do think we have a responsibility to a duty to take yeah, there we go. I do believe we have a duty to take responsibility for the hurt we caused, whether we intended it or not. And that was a really hard season for me, was admitting and realizing, like, I caused a lot of hurt because I didn't deal with my shit. So, that is what really kickstarted and really got me on this healing journey because I never wanted to do that to a man I loved again. And that was it. I mean, I really loved him, and I do still really love him, and he will always have a special place in my heart, and there was some hurt that's caused that I don't wanna repeat that behavior. I think when we enter into a space of love and relationship, there's always gonna be like, hurt that's caused, and, it's how we deal with it and how we address it, and, really being mindful of, "Okay, this is a behavior I have. This is a something that I'm doing that I need to stop," and, having that awareness, and that's what I wanted, is the awareness and, in hindsight, the communication skills to be able to communicate these things because I don't know, my goal is to continue to get to a space where I get better and better and better, and my body may always react when people approach me in the wrong way, I don't know. So to know myself well enough to be able to communicate to my boyfriend or whatever of, like, how like, can we do X, Y, and Z before you approach me like this? Or, hey, can you give me a heads up? Or, hey, if I do this, can you please do this? Because I can't always control these things. And so that was the skills and in hindsight, I didn't have the words for it when I was 19, but in hindsight, that was really my goals and intentions for embarking on this healing journey was to gain these skills and to not cause the hurt or the damage that I had caused in the past. Okay. So that is a quick overview of my healing journey, my background, and actually before I move on and just before we get into it, some of the stuff I've tried talk therapy, I've done personal development seminars, I've read books, I've done hypnotherapy, I've done MDMA, I've microdosed, I've sat with mushrooms a couple times. Let's see, I feel like I'm forgetting something. Said hypnotherapy. Self-hypnosis. Gosh, I feel like I'm forgetting something that I guess I've done the physical stuff, massage, acupuncture, cranial sacral massage, Reiki healings, energy healings, Master Co's meditations, which are amazing. I should have made a list. I've tried a lot of things. And so, really, again, with the intention of this video, what has been the most effective thing for me? And so, with all of those things, the hard truth that I learned writing, journaling, those are, free healing modalities and journaling is so underrated when it comes to healing. It's a free tool that Morning Pages by Julia Cannon, like, I could not believe how much those helped me, and it's a practice that I, keep going back to and really am working on setting a more, consistent intention with that because I think I release the most beliefs doing those morning pages than any other practice other than MDMA and the spiritual guidance. I don't think I said that, and I'm gonna be talking a lot about spiritual guidance as a healing modality that I use. So all of that being said, the hard truth that I learned and the hard truth that I want everyone to be aware of is there are certain people you cannot have in your support group. And for me, and I have a feeling for most people, two of those people are usually going to be your parents because whether they intended it or not, there was some hurt that was caused there. And for me, there's a book called, and I have not read it yet, but Adult Children from Emotionally Immature Parents. My parents do not have the emotional maturity to hold this space for me. And so, especially when I went and did the MDMA sessions, I didn't tell anybody except for my best friend about it because I had no fear going into it and I did not want anybody else to put it on me. And whether it's your parents or people really close in your circle, they're more committed to the image they have of you and what that means about them than they are to themselves or than they are actually caring about you. Not everyone's going to experience this, but what I really felt was like there were some people in my circle like, what are people going to think about me if they find out Michaela's doing drugs? And because of that, I can't have those people in my close healing and support circle. And they've lost permission. They have lost um, wh what is the word I'm looking for? Not permission, but, they just don't get to be a part of that part of my life anymore, and if they read stuff on my Facebook and Instagram, that's how they get to it, but they don't get it shared in my private life because they just can't hold that, and they've proven that to me time and time again, and so you have to set boundaries with those people in your life, and it's gonna be really hard because some of those people are gonna be the people you love the most, but just because you love them does not mean they can hold space for you, and the ability at which they have to hold space for you is the ability that they have healed themselves or the capacity at which they've healed themselves. So if you have someone that's not healthy, if you have someone that has not taken the time to do the things that you wish to do, they may be able to be your shoulder to cry on, but they cannot understand what you're gonna do because it's like asking a basketball player to give you volleyball lessons. It's not that they can't tell you certain things about mind like, there's certain principles they can share with you, but at the end of the day, they're not gonna teach you how to spike a volleyball better because they're worried about doing their layup or, whatever that is. So be extremely mindful and just know that there are certain people that are going to care more about what you're doing means about them than they actually care about you. It's human nature. It doesn't make them right, wrong, or indifferent. It's just something that you need to be aware of so you don't set yourself up for failure with that person. Just put the boundary, make it clear right away. And then this is where we're going to go into next. Get the right people in your support group. So I believe we need 1 to 3 healers, depending on what you're doing, and then at least one, if not 2 to 3 really good friends that you can text throughout the day. So for me, I have the woman that is my guide for MDMA. I have my spiritual guidance healer, which is Kimberly, and then I have a really good acupuncture and massage person. And occasionally, I did work with a microdosing coach, and occasionally, when I feel like the timing is right, I will hire a coach. So I have those people, and Kimberly has been a godsend and the biggest support system for me, and that's who I see for spiritual guidance. So those are my professional healers, my professional helpers. And the qualities and values that I look for in them is specifically Kimberly, my guide, and then my acupuncturists and my healers. They have the same values that I do as far as they believe in healing as this wholeness. They believe in that the body is connected, that we're connected, and that just because your shoulder hurts doesn't mean that it's just a shoulder problem. It could mean you're walking off. It could mean you have a trauma stored there. Like we are all very similar on how we view healing and wholeness. That is really important to me. The other thing is they're all doing the work that I want to do. They're all getting themselves to a place where they are better people and they're going through this healing journey. They're going through the work. I hate the words healing journey and work. I'm going to talk about that a little bit at the end, but for lack of better terms in this moment, like they are doing those things. And Kimberly specifically went through and she talks about this. She was on Rachel Hollis's podcast. She's been on Cam Nelson's podcast. Both of those are really great episodes to go watch if you wish. Kimberly, and she's talked about this. Kimberly went through sexual trauma. She's healed herself at the levels that I wish to heal to and heal at, and that was really important for me, is in a lot of ways, she's my North Star to remind me that it's possible. And the other things about these people is they want what's best for me. They believe in my future version of myself, the better version of myself, more than my past version of myself. So in those moments when I am like down on the floor, and I forgot to talk about this, so we're gonna talk about this. When I am down on the floor and I don't want to get up, they remind me to keep going. They give me faith. That being said, and I meant to mention this earlier, and then I got into a tangent about, my journey and stuff. The first decision we have to make before embarking on our healing journey is we have to decide to get up off the floor. And one of the things I was 13 years old, it was right after the sexual assault with the horse trainer happened. The trials were starting, and because of the memories, I had told the detective about the memories that had started resurfacing because I didn't want to jeopardize the trial in any way. And I watched a lot of Law& and Order SVU as a kid, and I didn't want me lying, quote unquote. They probably never would have found out about it, but I didn't want me lying to affect this other trial. So I told him the truth. Weird. And they decided to take both court cases to trial. Well, at that time, emotionally, my babysitter was more my mom than anybody else in my life. So I lost my emotional support, people who I considered my second family, and now I was going to 2 court cases over sexual assault. And I remember I skipped school. I did have a stomachache. I did have a headache, but it was more of a I'm distraught, I'm overwhelmed, and I can't deal with 7th grade math today. And so I had got in the shower. I didn't even turn the lights on in my bathroom. My bathroom has no windows. So the only light coming from in my bathroom was coming from a wall radio that I had on the wall. And it was a little blue light. And I had just gotten Rihanna's is I think the CD is actually called Good Girl Gone Bad. I had put Good Girl Gone Bad on repeat, fell asleep in the shower, finally decided that it wasn't worth my time to wash myself. So I turned the water off and I have tile floor and I laid on the tile floor and this song was just on repeat. And I remember I was freezing, but I refused to get up off the bathroom floor because I didn't even think I deserved to be warm. Like I didn't want to go. Like I just viewed myself as this terrible, evil person because of all the harm that I caused. And I didn't have the awareness or whatever to realize like they caused that harm. I was just the, canary in the coal mine saying like, "Hey, this is what's going on," but I was taking responsibility for their actions. And so I just thought I was this terrible person and I didn't even think I was worthy of being warm and laying on a carpet or in my bed. So I just laid there on the cold tile floor. And at some point, I don't know what happened, but at some point I remember thinking like, "Michaela, you have to get up. You have to go clean your room. You have to get up, Michaela." And I told myself, "Okay, when the song plays again, I'll get up." And I didn't. So I told myself, "Okay, I'll let the song play one more time and then I'll get up. Then I'll let the song play one more time and then I'll get up." And I remember I couldn't get all the way up. And so I told myself, "Okay, you don't have to get up, but you do have to get into like a child's pose in yoga." So I got myself to the child's pose. And then when I got myself to the child's pose, I got myself to my knees. And then when I got myself to my knees, I ended up sitting. And then eventually, like step by step, repeat song by repeat song, I got up off the floor. And to embark on a healing journey, that is the first thing we have to do is we have to decide to get up off of the floor. And from there, then you walk out and then you go get your help and then you go get your support and you tell those people, "I just got off the floor and I didn't want to get up off the floor, but I've got up off the floor because I have decided I'm not going to let my past determine my future and we make a change today." And it might be hard and it might suck. And there are times I'm going to be back off the floor. But now that you know I go onto the floor, I'm asking you in those moments to help me get my ass up. Only I can get my ass up, but you could kick it and at least, try. And that is the power of people. And I was even talking to my friend, the friend that I had mentioned earlier that wasn't emotionally available for me, when I was going through that season of my life. I had left that friendship, did not realize how I freaking hate the word toxic, but again, for lack of a better words, I did not realize how toxic that friendship was. I moved to California, I started film school, and one of my best friends to this day came into my life, and she reminded me the power of good people and the power of good friendships because I had really given up on friendships and relationships to an extent that I didn't even understand. And that's the power of someone who really loves and cares about you is they come in and can I don't believe anyone can help us. I believe only we can help ourselves, but they can guide us out of those dark moments. They can be a map or hope or a beacon of light, but we have to decide to again get up off the floor and keep walking. So anyway, that is the decision you have to make first when embarking on your healing journey is you have to decide to get up off the floor. So, meant to mention that earlier and I totally forgot. So, hard truth, first decision you make before and then what steps I would take today if I was starting my healing journey. So, to go back to what I said before as far as someone's going to get mad at me for oversimplifying what healing is as far as subconscious um programming, unprogramming, and reprogramming. In the words of Yoda, you must unlearn what you have learned, and then you must relearn the new things. It just, if there's a chance to quote Yoda, you gotta do it, right? And so that, and then nervous system regulation, right? So again, many tools to do that. The two tools that I would use is some kind of psychedelic therapy. Ketamine clinics are, if it's aligned for you, again, this is just my journey, what I would do if I was starting tomorrow. If it is not, my goal with everything is to just tell you what has worked for me. At the end of the day, always use discernment. I'm just some dumb blonde on the internet, right? I can't tell you what is best for you. Only you can decide what's best for you. I can just tell you what's worked best for me. And then you can go out and research those tools and look into those tools and then decide if it's right for you. So, with everything I'm about to say, always sit back and use discernment and ask like, is this right for me? Because if it's not going to be as effective for you as it is for me. The MDMA, the psychedelic, like, that was so aligned for me. Like, everything just fell into place, and to me, that's another sign that something's aligned, like, are things falling into place? Even if it's hard, I still had to work my butt off to, you know, plan the trip and go do things, and everything I needed really fell into place for me. So, discernment, discernment, discernment. So, I would do some kind of psychedelic therapy, whether that was microdosing mushrooms, MDMA therapy, which psilocybin in Oregon, I'm in Oregon, the clinics are opening, it is legalized, you can go sit with someone who is certified and work through that. Microdosing, it's just taking a smaller dose and kind of having those experiences over time. Again, I don't know really great resources for it outside of Oregon because I'm in Oregon where everything is legalized. MDMA, I believe by 2024, if not late 2023, will be legalized for people with severe PTSD to go take it with a therapist. Ketamine, on the other hand, is legal, I believe, everywhere. I don't believe anywhere in the United States it's illegal. So you can go into a clinic, you can get an IV, you can get IM shots. There's even places such as Mind Bloom and Field Trip where they will send it to you and you can do it at home. I personally have not done ketamine because I really like MDMA and psilocybin. Those are the 2 choices that I have made for myself. I do wanna try ketamine eventually, it just hasn't aligned yet. And then the other thing I would do is I would go find someone trained in the Vola method that can up to level 2 in the Vola method or in spiritual guidance. So Kimberly at TK Stretching is who I see, and I just absolutely love Kimberly. And to me, the spiritual guidance sessions are psychedelics without the psychedelics because like psychedelics, it can find the root of the issue and help you work through it from there. But that's really the goal is to get to the root of that issue so that you can start that subconscious programming and reprogramming. Because once you know what the root is, you can rewire that part of your brain to make a different behavior, a different decision. But until you get to the root, it's like treating the symptom instead of the cause. And we're trying to get to the cause and not just treat the symptom. So that is the power of finding something that can get you to the root of the issue, whether it's psychedelics. I've heard good things about EMDR therapy. I've worked with the EMDR therapist. I haven't done the actual, like, hooked up to the machine or anything, but I did like that type of therapy way better than talk therapy. I don't know if it would have been as effective for me had I not already done psychedelics. So that was really helpful because I once I had done MDMA twice, I started to learn, like, in meditation and other ways where I could find the behavior and kinda pull on that thread and get to some of the root behaviors myself. That doesn't mean that I still don't like to walk alongside, like, there are some things I could see where the root is, I can see what the issue I'm having is, and if my intuition tells me, like, "Michaela, you need to deal with this now," I deal with it now. If I can, there are just some things I really appreciate Kimberly being there and walking beside me so I don't have to go at it alone. So, anyway, those are the things that I would look into is doing some kind of there's rapid resolution therapy. I have tried that. I didn't like for me, I didn't like rapid resolution therapy as much because I'm just very curious. I like to know why things are the way they are. And rapid resolution therapy like takes present you and rewires and enters new subconscious beliefs without going into the past. And it's really effective if I don't want to deal with this. I just want to make my new belief system now. I think it's a really great option. I think hypnotherapy is a really great option. Like I said, I just not just for myself, but for what I plan on doing for my career at helping the community at large, I need to know what root causes and what is causing these behaviors in childhood. But if you're not into that at all, I'd go check out rapid resolution therapy because I think it's really great. So that's where I would start. I would get a good support system, friends, then I would go hire some really great healers. And then from that, do the find something that you love, whether it's hypnotherapy, spiritual guidance, anything that I mentioned to really get into your subconscious mind. And then I would go do nervous system regulation tools, whether that's meditation, yoga, massage, acupuncture, B vitamins, going and getting a vitamin panel, going and getting a hair analysis panel. If you're low on B vitamins, that really dysregulates our nervous system. Magnesium is really helpful. just figuring out more things about your body and that kind of stuff. Those are the 2 things I would do. Like I said, there are multiple ways to do it. Those are just the tools that I know about, and those are the 2 themes I would look for. So regardless of what you find, what you think is gonna work best for you, if someone's telling you you need to buy their book or their course and that's the only way you can heal, they're full of shit. Don't listen to them. You need those 2 things. You can do it by yourself through journaling and just eating better, like, just, focusing on your vitamins and minerals. I don't recommend that. Really recommend I just think we can go further faster and heal at a deeper level with a support team and a support crew. So those are the things that I would start out with, and yeah, I keep it simple. Like, that is the most important thing, in my opinion, in healing journeys is just keep it simple. Okay, what? Okay, the different types of healing. Okay, we talked about that. Why I believe daily practice. So when we're rewiring, like, these new beliefs or when we're deciding on a new way of being, we need to have something daily to really instill that. So one of the best metaphors that I heard when I was researching MDMA is so imagine you've been skiing down the same and Rick Doblin, the maps guy, he's the guy that said this. Imagine you've been skiing down the same slopes your whole entire life. MDMA comes in, fills that slope in, and allows you to ski new tracks. Not only does it allow you to ski new tracks, but it gives you these loving hormones to the tracks that you're now tracking, making, whatever, are very loving tracks. And so as you're skiing down these new slopes, as you're making new tracks, the best way to do that is to have a daily practice. And this is actually my biggest downfall and where I am learning in real time the importance of having a daily practice, whether it's journaling, meditation, going on a walk, a yoga practice. Just choose one thing that you can do daily. Because for me right now, like, as my brain is just going through these things and being a little more sporadic, like, what is going to calm my brain the first thing in the morning and allow me to, as I've been saying, try on a new way of thinking? Because my old way of thinking has just I've done the emotional, I've done the spiritual, I'm now focusing on the mental and the physical. I've done layers of that, but I'm at a new layer of it. So for me, I'm really focusing on a new way of thinking. So, what can I do first thing in the morning to really install that new way of thinking? So, for me right now, I'm journaling and I'm just really being mindful about what I say to myself first thing in the morning. So, sometimes that's, just like, Michaela, you're trying on a new way of thinking. Michaela, you're trying on a new way of thinking. So, my old thoughts can't just come in and just start do first thing in the morning. Okay. Da, 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 da. How to gather support. Okay, we talked about that. What I would look for, the different healing practices and healing tools. Okay, we talked about all that. Cool. All right. If you have any questions, like I said, this is a live. I will do a video that's more structured, more tailored. If you have any questions, please drop them in the comments. You can also find me on Instagram at Michaela Pollock. Send me a DM. I'm really just passionate about helping people get the tools that are the most effective because I think quite honestly, I'm not a huge fan of talk therapy just because I don't think it's that effective. I Excuse me, for me in my personal life, it was really helpful to deal with, like, the day-to-day stuff. Like, if I was pissed off about something, I could just, like, go and vent. It was not helpful for me getting into the past and actually healing and reprogramming those beliefs, those values, the trauma, the PTSD I had. We can't talk our way out of trauma. We have to feel our way out of trauma. And so those are just tools that I am passionate about sharing because I was fortunate. Like, I had my therapy paid for by the state because I had went through all that stuff. That's kind of an oxymoron, but you know what I mean? And so I'm really just passionate about sharing the tools that I believe are the most effective. If you're into experimenting like me, it's a blast. If you also you're like, I got a small budget, I need to get the best bang for my buck. That's what I'm passionate about is helping those people get the best bang for their time and their buck without having to go through all the experiments I did. So if you have any questions, please drop them in the comments. Please find me on Instagram at Michaela Pollock. Send me a DM. And thank you for watching this video. I hope that I can help you in any way I can. Until then, I will see you next time. Take care. Where is the? Oh, there it is. I'm like, I don't know where the button's at.